Hello and welcome. I am Raghav and today we are going to learn how can we create and run a very simple playbook file with Ansible. This is going to be very easy and very interesting. We will learn how to install Ansible. We will then create a very simple hello world playbook for Ansible and then we will run the playbook on our local system. So here the local system means the system where we have installed Ansible. In real world, as we have discussed in the earlier sessions, the system where we install Ansible is called as the Ansible controller, and then the playbooks that we create there runs on the remote host systems. However, for this particular session we are going to run it on the same system where Ansible is installed, and in the coming sessions we will create remote host machines and we will run the playbooks there. So here step number 1 is we will install Ansible on our system and then check if Ansible is installed by the command ansible space hyphen hyphen version. You can follow all the steps along with me. This is going to be very easy, and if you have any questions you can let me know in the comment section. Now generally we install Ansible on Linux systems. In real world we always use Linux or Unix systems to install and run Ansible. That is the Ansible controller we create on Linux systems, and then the host machines can be any Linux systems or can be Windows or other systems, but generally Ansible controller is a Linux system. Now we are also going to do the same. We are going to set up Ansible on a Linux virtual machine, and there are multiple options. If you already have a Linux virtual machine or a Linux machine, you can use that to install Ansible, and in case you do not have one, you can get a AWS Linux virtual machine or can also use Vagrant. Now let me show you. If you want to use AWS free Linux machines, if you search for AWS Linux by my name, Raghavfile, you should get this video, which is create free Linux on AWS and connect from Windows and Mac operating system. So you can watch this video and get the Linux machine, or you can also check my Vagrant playlist. Vagrant is a free and open source tool that can be used to create and manage virtual machines, and this is very easy, very simple. Within 30 minutes you will be able to use Vagrant and you can create virtual machines. So if you watch the first two videos, you will be able to create virtual machines with Vagrant. So this is very easy. You can follow any of these, and if you have any other option for getting a Linux machine, you can use that. And also to install Ansible, if you say Ansible download, we have this installing Ansible documentation and Ansible installation guide. This is from the official documentation of Ansible. You can use the requirements of your system. So you should be having Python and pip on the system, and then we can use the command pip install Ansible to get Ansible on the system. You can see all this guide. Now in my case I'm going to use a Vagrant virtual machine. So if you want to follow me, you can just see the Vagrant tutorial and you will be able to use Vagrant. So we will be using Vagrant, and for that I have to get Vagrant installed on my machine and also VirtualBox, which is a virtual machine provider. Okay, now here if you say Vagrant download, you can go to this website and you can see Vagrant we have for Mac OS, Windows and Linux. So whatever operating system you are using, you can download the executable and run it. If you are on Windows, you can use AMD 64 or i686 version. I used the i686 version on Windows earlier and I was able to run the installer and get Vagrant installed. For Mac OS, if you are using Brew on Mac, you can directly run this command, or we can also download this package or this file and then install it in the applications. For Linux, you can see all the different options. So basically if you have Linux, you can see if it is Ubuntu Debian, this is what you will do. If it is CentOS or Red Hat Linux distribution, we will use sudo yum install. If it is Fedora, these are the commands. Amazon Linux, for if you have Amazon, then you can use, if you have added the AWS Linux system, then you can use these commands, and then this is for homebrew. Okay, and similarly we also need a virtual machine provider. So VirtualBox is free open source and goes very well with Vagrant. So you can also download and set up VirtualBox. So you can get it for Windows, Mac, Linux. You can get it from here. So if you are on Windows, you can install Vagrant and VirtualBox and then go to your command line. So you can go to your command prompt, type cmd, and you can run it as an administrator, right click run as administrator, or just as a simple user should also work. And then you can check for Vagrant version, and if you have Vagrant installed, it will show you the Vagrant version. Now for Windows, you can also use PowerShell. This will also work. And another option is if you install Git on your system. So if you go to Git downloads and go to the Git SCM website, download the Git here installable, and then install it on your system, you will get a Git bash, which is a Git command line. So in my system it is already installed. You can see this is Git bash, and this is a very good terminal for Windows. So I can also run all my commands here. And the other good thing here will be, I think it should be version. Let me close this. I will say Vagrant -- version. Another good thing here is you can use the Linux and Mac commands as well here on Windows using Git bash. So you can see on Windows, if I say ls for listing the directory structure, it will not work, but if I say dir, it will work. However, here if I say dir, I am still getting the options, and if I say ls, I still get all the data or the contents of this folder. So that means the Mac or Linux commands can also work if you are using Git bash on Windows. I will say clear. Again, this is a Linux or Mac command and it is working here. So I will suggest it is a very good terminal. If you are on Windows, you can use Git bash. It also has these colors and really good options here. So you can use this on Windows, and I am on Mac as of now. So I will go on my terminal. I am pressing command space to bring up Spotlight search, and I will type terminal and hit enter. I am on my terminal here, and if I say Vagrant -- version, I am getting this. And for VirtualBox, if I say VBox manage -- version, I am getting the VirtualBox version as well. So now we have Vagrant and VirtualBox installed. Now I will open the terminal and navigate to the directory where I want to set up the Ansible project. So I am going to go to you can go to any folder and create a new folder here. I am going to create a new folder. I will say Ansible project 1. You can name it anything, and open this folder. The commands or the steps will remain same for Windows as well. So if you are on Windows, you can also follow the same thing. And now from the terminal, from the command line, I will navigate to the location of this folder. So in my case, it is on desktop. So I will say decd. CD is for change directory, and I will say desk and press tab to autocomplete. Then projects tab to autocomplete, and then Ansible project 1. And as of now, it is empty. So we have done step number 2. And then inside the project folder, we can create a new folder called ansible-controller. Although in this session we are just going to create ansible-controller. That means we are just going to have one machine where we will install Ansible, which will be called as ansible-controller. In the next session or in the coming session, we will also create host machine. But here, let me just create a folder called Ansible controller, and you can see it is created here. And I will go inside this. I will say cd and press tab, and I am here inside the folder. Okay, now here, because we are using Vagrant, we can create a virtual machine by running the command Vagrant init. And if I just run the command Vagrant init, it will create a Vagrant file, an empty Vagrant file, where I can manually add the details of the virtual machine. But if I know what operating system or what VirtualBox I want to use, I can directly say Vagrant init, and the name of the box. So if you go to Vagrant boxes, here is a link where you can search all the available virtual machines that we can create and manage with Vagrant. So you can see all these options are here. Here we also have the options for providers, what all providers provide this virtual machine or virtual box. So if I say CentOS operating system, you can see we have so many options, and this is for CentOS 7. So here I can create a Vagrant file and then add this manually, or I can directly say Vagrant init CentOS 7. So this is what I'm going to do here. I will say Vagrant init CentOS 7 and it will generate a Vagrant file here. So you can see here Vagrant file is generated, and if I open this file, you can open with any notepad or text editor. So you can see this is the file. I will open it in Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text so that you can see it in a better way. I am going to use Visual Studio Code here. So there is no need, it's not mandatory to use VS Code. You can use any text editor, any notepad. I'm using it because it will show the file in better fonts and colors so that it is easy to view and understand. So you can see this is a Ruby file. Vagrant uses Ruby syntax, and here you can see we have the box CentOS 7, and then all these are commented out. I will most of these data and instructions are commented out. I'm just going to remove all the comments so that it becomes easy to understand. And I have covered all these in detail in the Vagrant tutorials. So just in case you are interested to understand more on Vagrant, you can watch that. But as of now, we just need a very basic Vagrant file like this. So you can save this, and then we have to edit the Vagrant file, and we will also add the instructions to install Ansible on this virtual machine. Now we can do it separately as well. We can first bring the machine up, and then we can run the commands here. We can run these commands which we have seen to install Ansible. Let me go and check again. Yeah, so for installing, this is for Vagrant. For Ansible, if you see the commands for CentOS, you can see all these instructions. Sudo yum install Ansible. This we can run separately also after getting the machine ready. However, with Vagrant, we can add all the instructions within the Vagrant file. So if I add this provision script within Vagrant file, it will install Ansible at the same moment when it will create and generate the virtual machine. So here I have this already saved. This is what I need. I'll just copy this and put it in my Vagrant file. So here you can see this data. So what we are doing here is we are defining a name for this virtual machine called ansible-controller, and then this is the operating system we need, or the box, and then we are adding this provisioning script which will install Ansible on the system. So I will save this, and now I just have to run the command vagrant up. I can also run vagrant validate to validate the Vagrant file, just to check if everything is okay with the Vagrant file and there are no syntax errors and no logical issues. It is all fine. Now I will just say vagrant up, and this will generate the virtual machine, create the virtual machine, and set it up by installing Ansible, and we will have the Linux system ready with Ansible installed. And this process can take some time based on the size of the box and the network and the processors on your local system. Based on that, it can take some time, but otherwise it should be pretty fast. And you are completely free to use any Linux system or even any system. If you have Ansible already installed, you can just continue with this particular session, because here the main agenda is to create a very simple Playbook file and run it on the local system and just see the running of a playbook file. In the coming sessions, we will create some more complex playbook files and then run them on host machines. So you can see the machine is created and now it is running the provisioning script, which is installing Ansible on the machine. And yes, it is adding all the packages. And meanwhile, if you are using VirtualBox, you can also go to the VirtualBox GUI and check. So if I go to my VirtualBox, open VirtualBox, we should be getting, you can see this machine is now up and running. So you can see all the details about the machine on the VirtualBox GUI as well. And it is still under the process of installing Ansible. And let's wait for this process to get completed. Okay, so looks like this is now complete, and if I check Vagrant status, this will show me the status of the virtual machine. And yes, you can see the virtual machine that we have named as ansible-controller is up and running. Alright, now I can go inside the machine by running the command vagrant ssh. So I will say vagrant ssh, and this will connect via SSH to the virtual machine. And yes, you can see now I am inside the virtual machine, and if I here say Ansible space hyphen hyphen version, I should get the version of Ansible, and yes, that means Ansible is installed properly on this system. So now I'm inside this machine, and now so we have completed the process of creating a Linux virtual machine and installing Ansible. So until here, if you are using any machine where you have Ansible installed, you can continue from here. This was the process to get the machine ready with Ansible. Now we will create a playbook. So we are going to create a new directory within our virtual machine called Ansible project. You can name it anything actually. So as of now, I am in this directory home vagrant. I will say Ansible project, and then I will cd to this folder Ansible project. And now I'm going to create a new file called playbook.yml. You can name it anything. It should be a YML file with a it should be a YAML file with .yml extension. And here I will say touch playbook1.yml, and the file is created. As of now it will be empty. Now in real world, generally we will create one more file here called hosts, and there we will add the IP addresses or the domain names of the host machines that we have to control from this particular Ansible controller machine. But just for this tutorial, we are skipping that step. We are just going to have the playbook with the instructions to run on the same machine, that is localhost. So now I am going to add this following data in my playbook. So I am going to create a very basic playbook called, the name will be basic playbook. Now here the host we are using is localhost, that means the same system where we are running the playbook. And the task, we are printing a message using the module debug. We are printing hello world. So this is what I will add here. I have also added this separately in my notes so that I can copy it from here. This is what I want. I can use this one as well. So I will say vi to open the vi editor for this file. I will press tab playbook1.yml, and now I am in my editor. I will press I on the keyboard to go to the insert mode, and then just paste here, and then I will press escape key on my keyboard, colon WQ to write and quit, and exclamation mark, and enter. So if I check cat playbook1.yml, you can see here we have got our playbook created. Now I just need to run the playbook, and for that I will say ansible-playbook and will give the playbook name. Now this command ansible-playbook, if I press tab, it is auto completing, and if I say -help or -h, it will show me all the sub commands I can use. So generally with this command we will use the inventory file or the host file by giving -i option, and we can also use some other tags and other options. But for now I will just say ansible playbook and the playbook name, that is playbook1.yml. So here you can see it is saying localhost does not match all. If I check, it is all here, it should be localhost. Let me just copy this localhost, or I'll just edit it here. So here in place of all I will say localhost escape :wq exclamation. Sorry, I have to say cat playbook, and now this is done. I will now say I'm pressing the up arrow on my keyboard to go to the last command, and I will hit enter, and now you can see it is running the playbook. It is saying OK localhost. That means the localhost, the host it has found, or the machine it has found that it has to run it on, it is able to connect to the machine, and because this is the same machine, it is very easy. Then it is running this and printing the message hello world, and everything is running fine. Okay, so this was a very simple demo. In the coming sessions we will see how we create the host machines and how do we connect to them, and then how do we run our playbook on remote hosts. But this was a very simple demo to get you started with playbook and running the playbooks. I hope this was very useful. I will see you soon. Thank you for watching, and never stop learning.